Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Maqbool with you at B2B World. A very happy Independence Day to all our viewers. Today, of course, we are celebrating the 77th Independence Day of Pakistan. A very important day in the country indeed. Of course, there has been a lot of occasion of celebration and triumph that we have seen that has been evident in the way that people have celebrated this day today and many years ago as well. And this, of course, brings us to the point of where and what exactly is the value that this country holds for all of us and how dear it is to everybody who calls it their own country. Especially given the kind of turbulent circumstances that Pakistan is in, this Independence Day is extremely important in that reference as well, because it's not just a matter of joy and celebration, which is of course there, but it's also a matter of what you can do for your country and what exactly is that we are going to be planning as a way forward, as what we owe to the country and how we want to take it forward. And so of course the kind of challenges that unfortunately Pakistan has had to see for the past 77 years and more, and especially with regards to the political and economic challenges the country is currently facing, this responsibility becomes even more important. There have been of course numerous sacrifices that both our political leaders and our security personnel have given with reference to the protection of the motherland, for the uplift of the nation, and of course we greatly value all of that as well, and we want to be able to reciprocate that in terms of at least being honorable and responsible citizens of the country, and then of course bringing this love forward in actual action. So we're going to be taking a look of course at the past 77 years of the country and where it stands today and what the people can do for their country moving forward. At the same time, of course, we're going to be taking a look at the current situation where of course we know that over the weekend the caretaker prime minister was nominated, and he's also assumed his responsibilities in an oath-taking ceremony earlier today. The caretaking PM, Mr. Anwar Haq Kakar, is the 8th caretaker PM in the country, and he has been tasked with huge responsibilities given the kind of political and economic challenges that exist, and of course the conduct of free and fair elections in the upcoming months, especially with the new census results also being ratified, and then of course new delimitations being in order. So we're going to be taking a look of course at his profile as well and the kind of responsibilities he's been tasked with and how moving forward he can play a very vital role as to bringing the caretaker setup forward. We're also going to be speaking about the very important task of choosing his cabinet, which is extremely important as well moving forward in terms of the kind of decisions that need to be taken, and especially given the fact that this is no ordinary caretaker setup, it is a more empowered caretaker setup, and so what sort of influence does that bring in the equation as well. So we're going to be talking about all of this today. Let me also welcome our guests in the studio. I've been joined by of course senior analyst Farooq Patafi, is unfortunately not with us, but his name keeps slipping my mouth. We also have been joined by his brother and friend in arms, Raja Faisal, and of course Hafiz Ahsaan Haq Kakar, who's the Advocate Supreme Court. He's also joined us in the studios. We've also been joined online by Batool Rajput, who's a senior journalist. Thank you very much, Batool, for taking the time out and being part of the discussion. Happy Independence Day to all my guests. And let me start with you, Faisal. Given the scenario as to what is going on today, this is something that of course brings a lot of joy in everybody's hearts, that we get to celebrate independence, and it holds so much value to us. Given the fact that we haven't gotten this easily, and independence of course comes as always with a lot of struggle. But looking back at the 77 years of Pakistan, how far do you think the country has come along, and what sort of future do you wish to see for the country?
Yes, Anna, talking about the Independence Day, I think it did not start this morning. Bugles of the independence, they started bugling around since yesterday evening, and of course wherever I was going in my vehicle, I was driving around, and everywhere there were people outside, and of course they were celebrating the Independence Day, and they started doing it yesterday, and of course right at the middle of the night, 12 o'clock in the night, I started hearing fireworks and each and everything around me, and bugles were around me, and people were out. They were jubilant about it. But of course, if we talk about the state starts with early in the morning, right at the Fajr prayer time. Of course, there is a 31 gun salute which was given by Pakistan Army, and that's how it all started. And then, of course, all of the buildings we are seeing, of course, we are quite near to Constitution Avenue, and all of the buildings, they are lit up with the green colors, and there are people of all sorts from everywhere who have gathered there just to look around and see by themselves, and the kids are with them, and everyone is walking around on Constitution Avenue. By the way, Constitution Avenue, of course, represent the democracy of Pakistan. And as you have asked me the question that what kind of future I see, I see a future, a very bright future of Pakistan. And of course, democracy would play a key role in the coming future of Pakistan. And of course, the very next topic we have today, it is related to democracy as well, strengthening the democracy. But Sana, if we look at the current scenario of Pakistan, of course, there are problems faced by Pakistan. Few of them, of course, they are related to economy and all. But with the jubilant, with the vibrant, with the nationalistic kind of youth we have in Pakistan, we should not be worried about it, because in the modern times, of course, we know is the age of IT, is the era of IT, and we know that Pakistani youth, they excel in IT. Even so many countries of the world, Pakistani students, they get hired because of course they excel in it. And I see a bright future when it comes to economy as well, because IT sector is such a sector where we have ample opportunities, and in coming future, of course, IT sector would provide lots of help towards our economy. So fingers crossed, just waiting that in coming days we will see that one by one the problems which are faced by Pakistan at its 77th Independence Day, we will overcome them. And next year when we gather in this kind of program, of course, we would be talking and highlighting about how we did it in the last year. So I'm hoping that everything would get settled in coming future.
Right, that's of course very encouraging, Faisal. And come to you, Hafiz Saab, with a similar question, because I want to know, we all of course have our own experiences with the country and how our relationship has been with our land. And I want to know what this has been for you in whatever history we have seen of the country. Even before we got independence, we of course value the kind of sentiment that existed in terms of the numerous sacrifices that were made to be able for us to be able to live and breathe in a free country. And so of course perhaps in a day-to-day basis we don't value it enough and perhaps take this freedom for granted. But what does this independence and this country mean to you?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sana, thank you so much, and happy independence to you and Raja Saab and the team of the Pakistan television and the people who are living inside Pakistan and outside Pakistan. It is a great day for all of us, and salute to the struggle of the Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who made Pakistan, who made possible to Pakistan to have an independent land for the Muslims. I can divide in three phases the whole the question you made me.
Okay.
One is the question is the struggle started before the 1940, and then 1940 we made a resolution at Minare Pakistan, and we demanded an independence country. And this was the first time when the two-nation theory came up in a way that earlier there was certain voices in the subcontinent that the Muslims are in the minorities. But at that particular time, we had raised the voice there as two-nations theory. And in that particular resolution, we had demanded two independent areas. One is the northwest of the India, and the second was the southwest of the India, comprising the majority of the Muslim people in the subcontinent. Then the struggle started after the resolution of 1940, and within 7 years, the dream which our leaders given to the people of that area, that there will be an independent state and there will be a rule of law over there, and they will live their lives according to their religions, according to their independent social status. So that was made possible within 1947. And Pakistan, presumably, it can be said that it is the first and on earth and the second state which is named on the name of the religion. And Pakistan's slogan was, Pakistan ka matlab kya, la ilaha illallah. So 1947 we came on the an independent country in the map of the world, and then this is the third stage, which starts from 1947 to 2023. And we have achieved so many big achievements from 1947 to 2023. Number one, we were the first Islamic university who made the nuclear technology. We were the first Islamic country who won many international sports. We were the first international Islamic country, and particularly in the world, the best irrigation system we have. We are the best, the exporting overseas Pakistanis, around more than 10 million living outside Pakistan, and they're contributing in the economies of many countries. Then the most important thing is that we made such a huge infrastructure in Pakistan. In subcontinent, you never seen like a motorways which is in Pakistan from Gwadar to the Gilgit areas. Then we have a very good infrastructure system on our education side. We worked on our dams. So we made so many things apart from the challenges we had in our country. But if you think over it, that if you count down in crops, we are the 10, among the top 10 countries in any crops you can see, in the milk, in the seeds. So the important thing would be that first of all we should realize the strength. The strength is that Pakistan has been a successful country. Pakistan has been, in a way, that it has dominated all over the world in different areas, in the competition side, in the scientist side, in the doctor side, in the agriculture side. But now the important thing would be the challenges which are being faced to Pakistan. And I think the most important challenge for Pakistan is the governance, the rule of law, and the political and economic stability of the Pakistan. This is the most important area which needs to be worked, and many works have been done on that, but now it is important that we should consolidate our efforts for the rule of law, for the good governance, for giving the equal rights to the people of Pakistan, to work on the equality before the law. So these are the most important areas which can be said that they might be the stumbling blocks to be a more prosperous of Pakistan, which should have been from 1947 to onward. If we, away from these stumbling blocks, Pakistan will be a more prosperous country, have a more respect in the map of the world, and like other countries, we have the more opportunities of living over here, and we will have a bright futures as well.
Right, absolutely, and that is of course the hope. We've also been joined by Ms. Batool Rajput. Thank you very much, Batool, for joining us and being part of the discussion, and happy Independence Day to you as well. And I would like your sentiment with regards to how the country has grown in these 77 years as well, and how you look at it. But also add to that, when we talk about independence and when we celebrate this independence that we have gotten after numerous sacrifices, do we stand today as an independent country, as an independent nation? Are we independent in thought, in action, in what we get to decide, whether it's at a state level or at a community level or even at the individual level?
Sana, I believe this, but I do have an answer. I feel that the Pakistan, it has, we have seen martial laws, we are still struggling for the politicians, that how they are going to absorb political institutionalization, because we still see that there is hardly any democracy in within the parties. We hardly see intra-party elections. So when this side of democracy is within the party, so I think that it is very easy to accept that as a society we will have to take more time to grow as a democracy. And this is another challenge that we face, that many institutions in our country could not grow. There's few institutions they could stand confidently in international community, because I would like to quote Ayub Khan's book Friends Not Masters. In that book, which was probably his background, he said that nobody in our country is doing his own work. Institutions who interfere in each other's work because are not doing their work properly. So I don't right to agree or not, but this is how he did it. So I think we are still struggling for the real meaning of democracy. Democracy means the agreements for between institutions, democracy, social responsibility. And uh, I don't want I anything which use the present anything which is disinformation. I can only talk to myself. So I think the social responsibility in our community. I cannot speak for other institutions, but I see that the same is not applicable in Pakistan system because all the institutions are not working in the same place. And we say we say a race. So I think we are still learning as a society. And finally, I think we are at a stage where we have the importance of political economy. We have learned that decisions that will keep the country intact and stable, growing, and this sustainability in the near future. And on the other hand, independent in our
Right.
son, I believe
Yes. Yes, Batool.
definition of independence is that you have to be socially responsible. You cannot say something that you want to say. This, you have this right on the basis of humanitarianism. You can say that you can do whatever you want, or you can say whatever you want. But I think when you are at a responsible position, as we are, we cannot take our actions now for granted. So we are independent, and we have to stay independent responsibly. This is how I define independence.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely correct in doing that. There are, of course, certain limitations that we need to understand. And same goes with what Faisal, we've earlier also spoken about with issues such as freedom of speech. It's not something that you can just take for granted. There are, of course, certain lines that are there. And then there's, of course, the responsibility that comes with it as well. Speaking of which, of course, we know that the current times are very challenging politically and economically, and unfortunately we have seen many in the past as well. But the country again is at a point where it needs a lot of our attention and a lot of accountability from the public as well. And now we have the caretaker prime minister in as well, and there is huge tasks on his shoulders to steer the country out of these challenging times, or move towards the conduct of free and fair elections, which in itself is a challenge with the new census in place as well. First, Faisal, your take on the appointment of the new caretaker PM, because we've discussed this at length in our previous shows, and we've spoken about various names that were coming up in reports, and this seemed to be something that was surprising to many.
Sana, that's what I was about to highlight. You remember almost all week last week we have been taking this issue as one of the segments of our program, and we have been obviously talking about it, and this was the name. I think only once we mentioned, but we simply ignored it because there were lots of other names. But one thing was quite clear, that there were two things we've been highlighting, that these two things should be taken in the account. Number one, of course, Pakistan is facing obviously challenges in terms of foreign policy. Pakistan needs to fix it, and of course, them kind of challenges, you have to have somebody who has experience in the foreign affairs side, and here we have someone who has very good experience, and of course he's been attached with the think tanks, he's been working for them for a long time. I'm talking about Prime Minister, obviously caretaker Prime Minister now, Anwar Haq Kakar, and he is someone who's considered as quite vocal when it comes to Pakistan's narratives, Pakistan's foreign policy. So we are hoping that in coming days, of course, wherever his expertise are required, he will be providing them. And at the same time,
but Faisal, his responsibilities at home seem to be quite large as well, with the kind of political challenges, and of course the IMF standby arrangement is there, then of course the new census results in. So there's a lot to do at home as well.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, we've been talking about that this setup is of course going to be empowered. And when I say empowered, of course, there will be decisions and made by the caretaker Prime Minister in coming days. And them decisions, of course, we are hoping that he will steer the country on a path where we will find free and fair elections in coming future, number one. And number two, the political sort of fights and brawls which were going on, I think caretaker Prime Minister, he will look into it as well. And what he would do is he would obviously bring everyone on a sort of consensus. I am seeing a political consensus in coming future, which would of course be catered by the caretaker Prime Minister. And another thing which I'm looking at, of course, is that as we know that the previous government, they had to do a lot to fix the economy, and obviously IMF's package they secured, and for that, of course, they required somebody to be empowered so that the decisions which were made previously, somebody who comes is empowered enough to sustain all of the pressures. And of course, we are hoping that the caretaker Prime Minister, as he's energetic enough, he normally, I mean, we see someone who's of a very senior age, but this time around, we have somebody who's energetic enough to deal with all of the situations.
So you're happy to see a young man?
I am, and actually I have met him, the caretaker Prime Minister, back I think a couple of years ago. We always came across in different think tanks, and he was very vibrant when it comes to Pakistan's foreign policy, Pakistan's foreign narratives. He is very energetic, and I'm hoping that he would steer the country towards very positive side.
All right. Hafiz, the situation, of course, at the moment, and which is why, of course, this appointment was also something that everybody had their eyes on, is that this is not a normal sort of caretaker setup. We've had a change and an amendment that has brought in more powers to the caretaker setup. And I understand there is, of course, the conduct of the elections, which is the primary responsibility. But beyond that, there are numerous other measures that this caretaker setup would have to take under Kakar Sab's leadership. And so I want to understand exactly what sort of sphere of opportunity exists for him and his cabinet because of the empowerment that now exists for them to be able to help this country move forward.
Sanam, before answering your question, I'm taking a little bit on the 14th of August, the tide. Because if you compare the 1947, when we came into being existence, there was resources issues as well with the Indian government, and they had refused to give us the due resources from the British subcontinent. But when you realized at that time, when we did not have even a staple for punching our papers, and now you can see how much we have made a progress. So we need to highlight our positive optics inside Pakistan and outside Pakistan. This is the most important area. There are so many countries where there are some political problems, the economic problems, but all the time they've been on the positive side, and the positive side is we can make a slogan for a Pakistan like any other countries, the bright Pakistan, the shine Pakistan, the progress Pakistan. So this is the most important area where you can, boost your people inside and can attract the foreign direct investment in your country by making a poster that Pakistan is a country which is a vibrant, which is acceptable, and where the people of such talented, they are there, they receive and they will welcome. So this is the one area. The second area you're talking about, the caretaker government, I think I met this man and we've been several times on different occasions. It is a fresh blood in the Prime Minister office. He has a clear vision, he has a clear line of action. He has a grasp over the national security and with the foreign relations matter. And I think,
but will he have the power also within the setup?
Definitely. With the last 2-3 weeks, we have seen from the Parliament, they have amended the certain areas like the Election Act, where they have given the power to take all the decisions of for the caretaker which have been by the previous government. So there is no issue. There was a judgment of the Supreme Court of Pakistan in Khaja Asif's case where they have restricted the role of the caretaker government. But now all these restrictions have been lifted up by the Parliament itself, and they have given a role to the caretaker government like a regular government of the country. So there is no issue with the empowerment. The issue is now is that he is a good man, and he has a vision, and he will definitely try to steer the country on a better side. But the most important thing would be that how the cabinet of his would be composition, that from the people who have a neutral people who have a good background on education side, the expert side, because Pakistan needs at this juncture, when the previous government has taken a very good step with the military establishment by establishing the SIFC, the Special Investment Facilitation Council, which is primarily purpose to boost the economic activity in Pakistan. Until you will not boost the economic activities inside, and by attracting the foreign direct investment in Pakistan, it would not be feasible for Pakistan to have a respectable place like the other countries do. We have, and we will like for $2 or $3 billion, we will go to the IMF or the World Bank and seeking the grants or the loans. So this is not the ultimate destination of any country. So now the establishment and the government of Pakistan, they have realized, they have made a very good setup like the SIFC, because inside Pakistan, the businessmen, and outside Pakistan, they have seriously complained about our governance and red tapeism in our bureaucracy, because the country has the potential. Even the people outside Pakistan, they have multi-millionaires. They want to invest in Pakistan. I, being the Grievance Commissioner for Overseas Pakistanis, I have realized the sentiments the overseas Pakistanis have, but the problems of the system inside Pakistan, because we have a multi-layer system in Pakistan. We have a federal government, then a provincial government, then a local government. So many departments came for even the NOC, and we have a weak contract compliance in Pakistan. We have no responsibility, but we have the execution mechanism in Pakistan. We need to reform our taxation system in Pakistan. Either we have the custom, sales tax, federal excise, then the local government, special tax. So we need to change all this, and this forum which has provided, and the former Prime Minister he has a very strong resolve about the ISFC, and I, being the legal expert and the investment expert, and seeing the foreign sides, that how much important we have, that we have a one window facilitation system in Pakistan to ease doing business in Pakistan, to attract our local investors, and then of course outside.
Right.
So this would be the big responsibility, and I think that is why the major changes in laws have been made for the caretaker government, so that they will not say any time that we are reluctant by the judgment of the Supreme Court of Pakistan, we are not empowered. So primarily high responsibility on the coming Prime Minister, the sitting Prime Minister, and his cabinetcy.
Batool, the situation, of course, with the reference to where we stand today is important, not just in terms of the kind of challenges that exist, but whether or not there can be truly an accountability process or something that we can look towards from this caretaker setup to actually contribute in that. And I understand that the empowerment exists through the amendments, but I want to know in practical terms and in moving forward, how much should we bank on this setup to help us in the current scenario to be able to deliver with regards to, say, the IMF package or other economic challenges, and then also what exactly their role will be in ensuring that there is a free and fair election in the country in the upcoming months. I understand the primary onus has been placed on the ECP, and that's there, of course, constitutionally as well, but I want to know how exactly do you think that is going to pan out, given that historically there has been a lot of instances where we can say that things haven't happened according to the kind of jurisdictions that exist.
Sana, I think this is a very crucial political situation, and it is unprecedented. Primarily, when we have been talking about political scenarios from the last 1 year, we have this term so much that this particular thing is unprecedented, this law case is unprecedented, this particular politician has said something unprecedented. So, and this too is an unprecedented interim setup. But the appointment of interim Prime Minister Anwar Kakar Sahab, I've seen him working in Balochistan when he was just known as a security expert in Balochistan, and I know he's a great professional. And his appointment is important because at this very point we needed a Prime Minister who was acceptable to everybody, and fortunately he is in everybody good books, which was required. If somebody would have come from Pakistan People's Party or PMLN, they would have naturally been biased towards their particular parties. But this appointment, at least, it strengthens this impression that the interim setup is actually interim. But there is a very clear message that even establishment wants the economy to grow. Even establishment wants, as I earlier said, that there is an understanding among institutions that whatever happens with the country, nobody is going to compromise with on economy. Whatever the political situation is, nobody is going to take for granted the economic situation. I think at least I feel a sense of positivity out of it. And because of it, the disappointment is a signal that he is going to follow this, and he's going to take all the steps that are important for the economic goals that have been set by this government, uh, by Shahbaz Sharif's government, and like my earlier colleague, this um, so I think these bigger claims, and they are not going to materialize if they are not, there will not be continuity between the applications and practicality of academic teams. I think this kind of a this kind of appointment at least will not disturb the process that needs regarding economy. So I think which is this. And when it comes to elections, Kakar Saab has already said that this is election commission's prerogative and I cannot do anything about it. Even that is understandable, but it is his setup, and he is looking after the setup. So we do have high expectations from him because I know him personally. He's a very to the point person, and I do have expectations from him that this setup will not be extended. And if it is extended, there should be a stronger reason behind it. And I think he will do everything with the reasoning. This is what I expect from Kakar Saab. I think he will do reasoning about everything, and we have to have this idea of not politicizing anything in this country. This is the only economic stability that we need. Even Shabashiri's government could not talk to IMF directly. They needed institution support. So the unity on this Independence Day, I want to highlight this point that the unity is very important. It is very important that it not the typical one page term that we use for particular parties and sometimes in particular situations. The real unity where you very confidently with consensus you have this definition of national interest, not that national interest which is going to
And
be
your goals
changed
are
after
aligned. And the goals are aligned.
national interest that is there, and you know that we are not going to have another definition of national interest after elections. So I think this understanding is there, and I hope it works for them.
All right.
Batool, obviously, you've talked about that, of course, this Prime Minister is quite acceptable within all of the parties, and I agree with you. And you being a seasoned journalist, I just want to know from your side, as you are obviously in touch with both of the major parties, I'm talking about the People's Party and I'm talking about PMLN. What do you, ascertain when we talk about that there will be a prolonged setup? What kind of, a time period we're looking at if it is prolonged setup? Of course, we know that the outgoing Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, even he highlighted that he wants the election to be held in time. But of course, he further said that the ball is in the court of Election Commission. So, in the aspect of delimitations, of course, we know that census is going on, and of course, with that, the time will be prolonged. Can we say that it would be a certain time period, like let's say a month more than the usual? I'm saying like instead of 90 days, let's call it 120 days. Would it be acceptable? Oh, 160 days would be acceptable. What time frame would be acceptable to the political parties? And if the prolonged time is getting undefined, can we see both of the parties going against the decisions of prolonging the setup?
And Batool, earlier clarification of what you were saying in terms of you hope that the caretaker setup is not extended. Do you mean beyond March 2024? Because so far that's the timeline we've been hearing, because it seems that the 90-day time period is something that is foregone.
Yes, actually it is very technical. It's not something that I am saying or we are just assuming. It's very technical that if there is a process about delimitation and if there is not consensus on delimitation, so they can take more time, because this is very technical and we have to see that whether all the political parties will they be comfortable with the all kinds of results of census as we have seen in SIL. So this is very technical. We have to see the reactions from the political parties. That's why I say that they have to see how much time will they going to take, at least for, till March or maybe later. And Pakistan People's Party said earlier that they are not going to tolerate the delay in elections. So it means that their position is very clear that they don't want to delay elections. But at the same time, Nawaz Sharif is not here, and the absence of Nawaz Sharif is damaging PMLN. That's why there were some other kind of voices within their party. So I think Nawaz Sharif's absence makes PMLN quite unclear about their political strategy, and People's Party does not want to delay the elections. And if the elections are delayed anyhow, because till an undefined scenario or date, so they will. I think political parties will react, particularly Pakistan People's Party. So I think regarding this, in this context, only Pakistan People's Party position is clear, but PMLN has not played politics very clearly. I think they just, until they were in the PM office or they were making policies, they were not very clear in their policies. But Pakistan People's Party played really well, and let's see how PMLN takes it, because they could not perform. They could not. They had this pressure. They took that pressure intentionally. And when I say that there could be an extension, it's only on the basis of how political parties are going to react or make this narrative or make their election strategy about the new constituencies. Will they accept the new constituencies? Will they be comfortable the way the voters will be divided? So I think this is very technical, and we all agree with this.
Right, absolutely. And Hafiz Sahab wants to add something as well, and you can add something, Hafiz Sahab, and also answer the question which perhaps might be there already in terms of how constitutionally now this also pans out, because at the end of the day, I understand that the reaction of the political parties and the dynamic that will unfold is there, but also we want to understand what will be the technical or constitutional terms that are or are not going to be followed.
Sana, I'm giving my legal input and the constitutional input on this side. First, if the Constitution says that if the Assembly complete its natural term, the election would be held in 60 days. Yeah. And Constitution otherwise says that if it is earlier dissolved, the election will be held in the 90 days. So this is the stated position of the Constitution. Now, what about the Election Act? The Election Act says that the election, previously, the election schedule will be announced by the Election Commission of Pakistan with the concurrence of the President of Pakistan for the general election. Yeah. Now the amendment was made in the Election Act. Now it is the prerogative of the Election Commission of Pakistan to give a date. Now come to the point about the holding of the election. Now we have to clearly define the role of the caretaker government. The caretaker government earlier was responsible for the day-to-day affairs and to assist the Election Commission of Pakistan for a transparent elections by providing the HR, like the law enforcement agencies and the finance. Now the role after the amendment made by all the PDM parties is clearly changed from the caretaker government to the Election Commission of Pakistan. Now the Election Commission of Pakistan is responsible to give a date for the election of the day, and the second, he is responsible for a fair, transparent election, and he will be assisted by all the law enforcement agencies, the government agencies. Now to the extent of the finance, the previous government has allocated the amount to the Election Commission of Pakistan, and much of the amount has been released to the Election Commission of Pakistan. But more importantly, what is being done by the last government from the second last day of their tenure, there was a session of the CCI, and in CCI, the meeting was held, and all the chief minister unanimously decided and notified the census of the country.
Right.
Now, if you notify the census under Article 50, Article 5 of the Constitution, then before going to the election, you need to have the reconstituencies, in terms of all the requirements. Now, the law says it has to be fulfilled, or it has the process will be completed in 120 days. So, the 120 days is a minimum benchmark for the making the constituencies in accordance with the notified the census. Now, after if the process is not completed within 120 days, and this is the responsibility of the Election Commission in Pakistan, and now there will be no jurisdiction for the High Court and the Supreme Court to intervene into the matters, because Article 50 of the Constitution is overlapping the Constitution in terms of the 60 days and 90 days, and under Article 2024 on the Constitution. But we hope that the election process should be held at earliest possible way, but the primarily responsibility is allied with the Election Commission of Pakistan. And if I realize on that, if the previous government, they are more emphasizes on it much prior to the date before going to the election, so it would be much easier for the Election Commission of Pakistan. Now, the second thing is, which is very much clear on that the role of the caretaker government has been defined. It would not be treated as an interim government. And if you look at the broad in the census, there is a concurrence, visible conference between the PDM, that they are not going for the election until the constitution of the constituencies has been finalized.
Right,
and even on the more the PTI, because now they are saying that if they are going in the way, might be there will be a problem for them. So it would be all be a win-win situation for the country, for all the political parties over there. But the important thing would be the political process should not be hurdled, obstacled. It should be carried out. But before that, all the legal formalities and the constitutional formalities
absolutely.
Made, and all the side would be have a place.
Right. Hafiz, a clarification regarding the legal aspects also. In terms of the ECP defining a date, you are saying, of course, that now there is going to be the ECP that has to decide upon itself, and there will be no intervention coming in from the courts. But I want to know then that does this in technical terms, not in terms of what a moral responsibility exists, but just purely in technical terms, does this mean that any possible date in any calendar year, for example, can be given by the ECP technically?
Sana, this is the first time in the history of Pakistan when the assemblies are completed their term and the schedule is not announced. Previously, simultaneously, on the one side, the assemblies completed their terms, the interim setup was brought in, and the election schedule was announced by the President and the Election Commission of Pakistan. Now, the situation have been changed in view of the CCI meeting held under the Article 150 of the Constitution. Now, the Election Commission of Pakistan first will go to the constituencies, and after finalizing, there will be the appellate side, the decision of the election.
No, I understand that. I just want to know, is there a timeline restriction to the ECP?
The broader timeline restriction is for the constituencies is the 120 days.
But you can go beyond that.
They can beyond that, and there are certain examples. In previously 120 days, never the constituencies process was completed by the Election Commission of Pakistan, because
but
first
is there a maximum?
120 days for the administrative side, then you can challenge the decision of the Election Commission before the High Court and then the Supreme Court, and then there would be the final authority.
Is there a maximum timeline?
The maximum timeline you can't say, but the timeline for the timeline that this, says for the 120 days, but it can be extended.
I understand. Yes, Faisal, you wanted to add something previously.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something because Khokhar Saab highlighted an excellent point, and I did talk about it earlier, and I just want to re-emphasize on it, that the current caretaker Prime Minister, I think as Batool earlier mentioned, that he's someone who's acceptable to all of the parties. So my what I believe is that in coming days he would be pivotal when it comes to political consensus. We know that we have been waiting for that political consensus since more than a year and a half, and we could not see that. So I believe that in coming days we might see him very active in bringing all of the stakeholders on one page for a better Pakistan, for a democratic Pakistan and for a prosperous Pakistan.
Absolutely, inshallah. That is, of course, the hope. Thank you, Faisal. Thank you, Ms. Batool, for joining us. Thank you, Hafiz, for being part of the discussion as well. As we celebrate Independence Day, of course, this is extremely important for us to understand where we stand today and the kind of roles and responsibilities that exist, not just on the caretaker Prime Minister, who, of course, we have high hopes from, but also from the rest of the nation and ourselves for what we can do for our country and what we need to do moving forward. And for that, of course, it's extremely important to be aware of what is going on and try and understand the situation and then, of course, make an informed decision. So that is what we're going to hope for, and we're going to continue talking about what is going on both within Pakistan and in the world in the debate. Keep watching B2B World. We'll see you tomorrow.